Hello, I recently got to watch Vernaculis video which argued about morality, and and it seems to me that it's rather not as coherent video in itself, or the points are not as coherent as could be. And I would like to offer another account, which also might might answer the original video he tried to answer, which tried to argue that the legislator is equal to God, which traditionally it's more the legislator is Moses or Jesus or Muhammad and so on, someone who had divine intervention of sort or divine communication. In any case, I would start. Before we even go to that, let's start with the basic. What we talk about, when we talk about morality. But first we talk about what lead to someone good, what what lead to someone good life, good in account that he live a between other people around him in the family, b between that is a multiplicity of families. Hence, he live in then hence there is multiplied traditions in his surrounding. And see when he is in states, what we have today, states or nations, that each nation, also a collection of families, have its own tradition and its own legislation to such degree, to big degree. So even if it's even if it's as Vernaculis put as it's all subjective, or in the Platonic argument, it would be something like in the line of Thrasymachus, that strongest, or something when we read the line of Thrasymachus in the Republic, that the strongest is the just, or the strongest is the happy, what lead to happy life being strong, that that would be denied in such view. I would like to proceed in account on it. Beforehand, what the issue that arrived to me in his definition, that he stack on the it's all subjective. And while it's true that each one of us might have different view, the question still need to be answered: what justifies such views? And in the attempt, you can see that you can see through inquiry that it leads to a bigger good, a bigger hence I want to live a good life which will be synchronized with others. So it can't be just in the personal self, it needs to have a public sense, and hence we need to justify on what we need to justify. Even though law is, while it's the least needed to be justified in itself, it needs to be justified. Why we don't need a legislator at all? Why do we need no laws to operate by? Or can there, or it's even need to answer, how can there be a state that there is no law? Because even in the most primordial sense of the tribes, of collection of families, you have a tradition in the families that go on, mainly orally, so it's really weak. But you don't have no legislation at all. You have some, and it's a weak legislation, and it's but not something ultimately needed. So that justification on the count on everything is subjective. need to do. But if we go beyond that, once we understand that there is multiple tribes and multiple nations, we all, and as we stated, we have multiple understanding of laws by different people. Yes. Uh, so we need to form some to find a way to look into that, to inquire into what lead a good life in relation to others, what lead a just life in its ultimacy. So that's so saying that it's all subjective or we can't get to subjective would need would be so incoherent that you can't even know, okay, why should I act in certain manner? In our individualistic world, at least in the American individualistic world, it seems rather the key point in how it's derived a lot of the understanding on morality, and it what lead a lot of the weird line of thought that is today on morality, that it's something that you can choose, for example, which is not. You don't choose what to operate by because you are bound to other people. So no, it's or the sort of I am object I am object again, you don't choose it and it's not so coherent. It's something that needs more. The very fact we talk about systems of ethics means that we are in multiplicity and we didn't answer and we still not sure what to justify. So the inquiry will not just end in the systems themselves, at least from what I can see. Now, who? So we look for how to justify the law, or how can you justify as not merely give reasons why we should listen to the law uh, out of nowhere, but why it's good to listen to the law and why the law is just and what and how it can lead, how can it develop the good person. So it's a question that we have that such inquiry will have in mind. Where nations do want to get better, also families and people want to get better, at least and they surely don't want to be worse or deteriorating due to weak oral tradition. That's from what I know. Some might, but that would be a really weird notion at the very least. So in such inquiry we will ask what makes the law objective or have justification to enact its rule. What the legislator wants. So at first, on the subjective objective, um, it's a rather interesting point could be that it's not entirely subjective, as it is passed through tradition, and tradition is often linked to the geographical and historical context it developed in. So, is and the constant interpretation and struggle of human in this world. So, such inc- so starting from that, we can start to see that there is some commonality. The commonality is not in every person, because even if every person has some specific interpretation of the law, we will try to look on a more greater force in such inquiry, because just what he said might lead us to it, but it's not enough. We need to see how we act in regard to other, how other understand his understanding of the law. So that is start formation. Tradition just, and from it we can see that, and from the understanding that the ultimate good is what leads such inquiry, meaning how is such law lead a person really to a good life would be what we look for. On what basis does the law exist? Why what was the intention of the legislator when enacting such laws? Did they change throughout time, or why did, and if so, why did they change? Did when they changed, did they have some? Did they keep the original intention of the legislator, or went against it? And what was the result of it? So that that would be a way to at least show that there is some common ancestry. Of course, you can have, in today's world, such discussion is a bit weirder, mainly because we live in our democracy, in our democratic life, the multiplicity take a hold. So you have things like multiculturalism and they try to contain everyone, even if it's not as extreme as all is the statement. We can't separate, we can't say that one nation is bigger, is better, have better rule than the other. The response to such a comment would be that yes, in their own area and their own historical context, that was developed within them, and it is in power, and I would believe that in most cases, when examined thoroughly, it would lead to, you will find that some had some good intention in them and good practice. Some need to reform. Some don't have a good practice, but a good intention. So you could reform the execution of the law, and in other you don't even have the good intention. So you don't have what. So the law itself might have part of unjust. It's it's how to escape the multiplicity, as Vernaculis noted, but just to surrender to it seems rather folly, especially when in actuality it's not authentic like that. Even in the stateless, even in the most anarchists, without any law, you would have a common law. You would have a law between people and how one should act with each other. It wouldn't be some sort of, maybe it wouldn't have a government behind it or some authority, but rather oral tradition or something weak along that, but it will exist. And in such place, I would argue that doesn't inquire into such notions will often live an uneducated life and would be a suspect to an harmful, or something that, or would be blind to what can be better. Indeed, they would say they might not have an understanding of what is good, but they would have of what is bad, more correctly, but only what is good. But it's not entire, entirely full. It's not an entire, it's not an entire understanding of what is good. Because in order to know what is good, you need to know what is the bad state and what is bad. Funny, he noted that why regressive called regressive because they go back to a bad state. I yet to understand the bad state in itself, as people use it and assume that and mostly assume that that you are on the same line of thought. But and it's interesting to know what's so regressive in the regressive left, but uh, it seems that it's mostly liberal, that it's not in the liberal understanding of what is good, which I yet to understand why. It's assumed that it's ultimately good beforehand. That's a tangent on our inquiries within it. But it's in itself, and the his understanding seems other on too much on surface to be a worthy answer. As for the original video, the legislator, the one that enacts the law, doesn't need to be Moses, or Jesus, or even God. In Jewish tradition, from what I know, the laws are given to Moses by God, meaning divine inspiration. I know that in certain historical Protestant circles, it was that Jesus had some believed in Jesus' existence and so on. That it was something between divine intervention through Jesus to the overall divine intervention. So, yeah, to God Himself legislate the law on the Catholic and the Catholic Church. It would be that it's passed to the to the to the pater or the Pope. So you have some divine intervention there on who is the right one to interpret the law. So his notion on the God as the legislator seems rather odd to me. Now, do you master religion in order to have such understanding? I think it's still a question. It's not as clear to me whatever. Today our understanding of religion is fairly close to society. Oh, and it can even be included on sociology or every field that it's the field that it derived from and other aspect. So religion in itself is too much lucid term to my understanding. I would How I see it is what encompasses someone's life in overall. It's not just the moral commandments, and it's the it's not just a specific book. It is an overall sphere that involves the person in his life. Hence, it's not something fully comprehensible. It might uh, it might sound a bit too mystified to some, but I totally believe that it's in a lot of sense due to a lot of progress to change throughout history. We needed a different. Uh, we have a more weird sense on religion compared to the past people we might examine when we have the from our tradition or in very fact that the notion that you can choose religion and it's something that you choose or laws that's good to you and bad to you and so on. It's not. I don't see it operate like that. I also don't see society operate. Society group of people that need to live with each other, and I would say the group of families to be more specific. Uh, Even then, you don't. It's not just law that you choose from based on value in some economic sense. It's not economically speaking. It can be quantified, and most would agree that it can be quantifiable, nor is it some something that will be true to every case. If we will connect to the original argument, what inquiry of what makes a law just? It's not what just the law, but what is the incentive? What is behind the law? What in what time did the law turn, and why did it need to be legislated at the time? What was the intention? So it's a bit above the laws themselves. So it's to the original video, I would say not necessarily. The legislator might have a divine intervention, but divine just could mean just as well that had some he had something by chance in a lot of in some cases, and not some grand not some God beyond it that the legislator had to see. So it depends. So to conclude, say answer to him, it would depend what he defined as God, because God is not in most tradition I held. It's not the same as legislator, and even then, it's still and even the more coherent thinkers I had on the subject, they will not. It's still I am not entirely sure why it's need to be God and not just a more Epicurean sense that God is that by chance it happened, and chance not might not have some direction by anyone. It just happened in a specific time that it could happen. You might use the term or the starry line that it would happen, but it's not. It doesn't need to be a causation factor behind it, some ultimate cause, something like that. So, and sorry if it's a bit too rambly in the end, but general, but I hope it might give a different account. That would be interesting.